Good evening, fellow Tumblrkers. It is I, me, this guy, bringing you a video inspired by 76 Totters Lane, who requested that people ask her questions that they wanted to ask her, and she would do videos, and she did a couple, or one, answering numerous questions, but since I've only gotten like one or more, because I'm cool like that, I figured I'd just do one per question that I get. So I reblogged and I got one or more questions. And so to start it off, here's the first video in a series of, hopefully series of videos of me responding to questions with little stories around the questions. And fortunately, because I was going to do a video about this anyway if nobody asked, because I'm cool like that, and get ready for these really awesome special effects going with the questions. So the first question was, how were you introduced to Doctor Who? Woo! And little side note, I actually wrote this side, but because the webcam does it backwards, as you can see, I had to trace over it. So look at me being clever. Anyway, how was I introduced into Doctor Who? It's kind of an interesting story, and I was telling a fellow Tumblr follower the other night, and I just figured I'd go ahead and retell it because it's cool. I think it's funny. You know, most people, they find themselves, they like Doctor Who ever since they were kids, or their parents get them into it. Me, I had heard of the show, but had never really understood the premise behind it. For instance, I would go to a Borders or a Barnes & Noble and would see, at the time, though I didn't know it, it was Eccleston's era of the Nine and Rose books, and I would look at it and they're like, okay, Doctor Who, I'd heard of it, but whatever. And then maybe a year or so later, which it was, I would go to the same bookstores and then see what would then be Ten and Rose, and I would see the different actor, and it's just like, what? But I still wouldn't do any research based around it, because it just didn't really trip my trigger. I would look in the science fiction and, you know, see those things and I'd be like, okay, whatever. So originally I thought that Doctor Who was a story about a scientist or a professor who had somehow contracted amnesia, and the story was basically based around them trying to figure out who he was. Go figure. My actual introduction in becoming obsessed with the show, I won't mince words here, it is an obsession, but I think it's a good one because I've met some really nice people thanks to the fandom. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Anyway, there were a few introductions to Doctor Who. One was the books that I saw, but that wasn't really an introduction. It was just more, hey, what is this? I don't know. So another introduction was Family Guy's Blue Harvest, which if you don't follow the show, Family Guy's Blue Harvest is the Star Wars parody, Star Wars A New Hope, which was the first one out of the trilogy that Family Guy did. There's Blue Harvest, Something 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 Dark Side, and then It's a Trap. But in Blue Harvest, in case you haven't seen it, it's a hour long or so parody of the original Star Wars movies, and the first one, it's very great. It's the one where when Luke in the original movie shoots down a TIE fighter, and he's like, I got one, and Han's like, that's great, kid, don't get cocky. That's where, Chris as Luke says, I got one, and Peter's like, that's great, kid, don't get penisy. So you're welcome, in case you never really understood that joke, and if you didn't care, you're welcome even more so. But well, in one scene, they happen to use the opening titles or a snippet from the opening titles from Tom Baker's era. When he was the Fourth Doctor, and I happened to be watching when it premiered on Fox. I happened to be watching it with my stepbrother, who is, as of this year, 41, and so he grew up watching the Tom Baker, Peter Davison, and then Colin Baker. But he definitely grew up watching Tom Baker, and in fact, his first Doctor Who story was the Tom Baker story, Pyramids of Mars. So he was like, "Oh, that's Doctor Who," and I was just like, "What? This term keeps coming up," and it's like, "Oh, what is this?" And he was like, "Well, you would absolutely enjoy it," and I'm like, "Okay, cool," but I never really researched it. So then, a little while later, I had really gotten into the works of Bruce Campbell, and he's, if you don't know, which this is Tumblr, you should know who Bruce Campbell is. Army of Darkness, Evil Dead, The Man with the Singing Brain, just king of B movies, Bubba Hotep, Elvis in Bubba Hotep. But I had become really intrigued in the work that he'd done. He was in all 3 Spider-Man movies because he was Sam. He and Sam Raimi go back and whatever. So I had been looking up things that he'd done, and I'd seen that he did the show Adventures of Briscoe County Jr. So first place I go to whenever looking something up to see if it's available, Amazon.com. And I looked on Amazon and saw that they had the complete series on DVD. So I was like, okay, that's cool. So, in looking at it, I scrolled down just to see what the product description was. And underneath the product description is the what buyers also purchased with this section. And with it was, if you wanted to buy the kind of 2 set, was the complete series of Briscoe County Jr., which side am I doing? The complete series of Briscoe County Jr., and then the first series of Doctor Who, which was the Eccleston one. And so I was just like, okay, this title keeps coming up. Maybe I should look into it. So after searching for Briscoe County Jr. on online, I went up to the Best Buy that's kind of up the road from me, and looked for it. But when I couldn't find it, I was like, I'm kind of one of those people who, if I go somewhere and I'm really in the mood to buy something, and I have the money to buy something, I will leave with something. Gosh darn it. Brr. And sure enough, after not being able to find Briscoe County Jr., in the actual store, I was like, you know what, why don't I see if they actually have this Doctor Who? And sure enough, they had the first series, which was $85. I'm rounding up from $84.99. So, woo. But so I took it back to my stepbrothers, and we popped in the disc. He's like, "Oh, Doctor Who, this will be crazy. This will be interesting, considering how much has changed." And I fell in love with the show upon the opening titles. Just, I don't know, just something about the TARDIS, the big blue box, little blue box, however you want to phrase it, bigger on the inside. I absolutely loved it. At first, I was a little kind of cheesed out by the whole, especially the Rose and Mickey scene at the very beginning, where you've got the and Mickey's doing the whole Michael Jackson dance, and I'm just like, eh. And Mickey became one of my least favorite characters, along with Martha Jones. But no, so I absolutely fell in love. And then when I found out that not only was it just a science fiction / fantasy show about aliens and whatever, but it was also about time travel. I'm really big on time travel, so anything with time travel in it, and I am so there. Back to the Future is my favorite movie. Prisoner of Azkaban is my favorite of the Harry Potter books because it deals. I love the time turner situation, and I just loved how that played out. Anything dealing with time travel. There was something earlier that I thought of, but I can't remember it now. But time travel is just amazing, and I love it, and in fact, it's one of the reasons why I've absolutely fallen in love with Eureka after season 4.5 and all that, or 4.5, 4.0, where they go back in time and then they change everything. But yeah, absolutely love it, and I've been following it ever since. I'm all caught up with the new series. In fact, after I had watched the first series and saw the regeneration of Tennant, as soon as I was done. And I let it kind of soak in for a couple minutes. I drove back out to the Best Buy, which was like a week after I purchased the first series. I went back to that same Best Buy and purchased the second series. So I got home, and upon putting the disc in and seeing the opening menu, I had the opening menu running when I decided, you know what? Just to play it safe, I'm also going to get Series 3 because they only had one of them left. So I drove all the way back to Best Buy and bought that one. So that was my introduction to Doctor Who, and I have no regrets. I absolutely love it. And one person at a time, I am slowly converting people to Whovianism. So we're growing stronger by the day. In fact, I've got a buddy who just finished Series 2, so he's ready to jump on Series 3, which, yeah, good writing, but yeah, it's Martha. But anyway, so that's the first in the series of questions, and this video has gone to about over 11 and a half minutes long. So I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you stuck with me, and keep these questions coming because I absolutely love talking and telling stories. So I'm going to leave it at 12 minutes. So we've got about 10 seconds. So anything you want to add? No? All right.